Hey, it's Craig Syracusa, and welcome to another episode of Walk in Faith, the show where we go beyond the image and we discover who our guests really are. You might know them from TV, the big screen, or even the world of sports, but do we really know who they are as a person? Do we know what motivates them? Do we know what inspires them? Well, that's what we're here to find out.
Today I had the opportunity to sit down with actress and author Andrea Logan White, who will share with us her journey through a difficult childhood to become the accomplished woman she is today. A woman who found God's love and allowed it to heal her, and a woman who works to share that love with the world. Stay tuned. Walk with us. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I really enjoyed the book. I mean, I was reading at the gym, on the train. I couldn't put it down. But what I loved is what you just said, how honest and open. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we do the show, is because I want people to see what God has done in my life. Right. And it's pretty much, what I saw in the book. But now, when did you find the time to write this book? I mean, you have so much going on.
That's a great question. It's actually, the book took about 2 years to write. So I would write usually from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And I have a co-author, Cindy Lambert, who wrote with me, who's awesome. And we would kind of coordinate back and forth, do a lot of interviewing, and I would just write after the kids went to bed, till like all hours in the night, just trying to get it done. So, and when you're passionate about something, you find time.
And I was thinking that, I was like, because you were so open and honest, right? I mean, that's an emotional journey. So you're reliving these emotions, which, is difficult. So I was thinking to myself, like, you're around the house, crying and screaming, and your husband's probably like, stay away from mom. She's writing today, because that's a lot to really dig up those emotions.
Yeah.
What was your emotional state during the day?
Well, it's interesting. It's first of all, writing is very cathartic. So there's something where it's almost like a release that you're healing. And if anything, I was more vulnerable for sure, but just aware of how differently I want to raise my children and raising my family, looking back at my childhood and all the brokenness and the emptiness that I felt as a kid, and seeing that need for faith. And if I could only have that when I was a kid. So if anything, I believe it's been a blessing, because I can kind of reflect. It's more of a reflection. And I had to get over the fact that I was ashamed of my past, and I had this horrible past, and I call myself a Christian. And I feel a responsibility to put my story out there, not to bear all the skeletons in my closet, but to really say, listen, we're all human. We are going to sin. I don't condone sin. I'm not saying here's a license to sin, but the way I was healed was literally receiving God's mercy and grace. And we beat ourselves up every day. And I just want to throw my heart out there to say, don't give up, because God uses our mess and turns it into a message.
I agree. And I think you'll definitely change hearts with the book.
Most of us want a perfect life. My ideal is to have a perfect marriage, never arguing, and children who never misbehave, and go to church every Sunday. But the reality is, like all of us, I'm imperfect and unfinished. In my book, Perfectly Unfinished, Finding Beauty in the Midst of Brokenness, I share how my childhood and teen years, and all the dysfunction associated with that time period, laid the foundation for a painful journey. But it also led me to Jesus. You see, this is not the G-rated story of a good Christian girl being transformed effortlessly. Even today, I still feel the need at times to be perfect, to be accepted by God, by myself, and by others. And because of how imperfect I am, I'm still gripped by fear that I'm not accepted. I've found that this struggle is common amongst women, and that's what motivated me to write this book. I've truly discovered that God meets us in the midst of the unfinished places in our lives. God loves each of us just as we are, because we are His, our imperfections and all. And that's why I wrote Perfectly Unfinished.
I think also, like you touched on that, it also did something for you. So it was sort of like a diary, but you had a lot of wounds that you were trying to sort of, get past, or doubts. And by writing the book, it was comforting to you, and you were able to overcome some of this.
Absolutely. I mean, you look back on your life and you see, where was God in this? And I think we can have a lot of anger and a lot of frustration, but to look at how we are the people that we are today because of what we went through. And if I didn't have that past, I may not be here today. And the song that says what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's what I believe, because I should have been dead 10 times. I mean, literally, between drugs and eating disorders and all of the self-destructive behaviors and addictions and people that were in my circle, even in Hollywood, there's no reason that I should be living but by the grace of God.
So, I mean, you said you didn't have an easy childhood by any means. I mean, you know, your parents got divorced. Your mom just picked up and left. You were bullied. You had an eating disorder. How did you overcome that? How did you cope with that when you were a kid?
I'm stubborn. I think it's funny looking back. My own brothers bullied me, which we're very close now, and you know, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. But I was the middle child. I was the only girl. I was the sensitive one. I was always the one who was sick, and my brothers were the type of boys that would say, "You're not going to the house until you throw like a boy." And so I grew thick skin, and so with that, I picked on, bullied, yes, but I also was a fighter. And so from little on, I would always try to fight back because I was so angry, because I was this little weakling. And, you know, it's definitely something that was hard growing up and going through puberty, the divorce of my parents, lost both of my grandparents, contemplated suicide, and I really don't know how I made it, but I also looked for love in all the wrong places. So I was replacing, because I didn't know God. So I was dating boys, and I was partying, and I was experimenting with drugs when I was 15. I didn't really have any parental guidance. So when somebody doesn't have a parent to say, don't do this and do this, and I didn't have that. So I kind of just did what I want. Thankfully, I was a good student, but it was hard. It was a very hard childhood, and I believe that I'm still here today because I believe all of our days were numbered, and yeah, but I had some rough years.
And do you blame your parents for that? I mean, do you think it's a parent's job to identify that each kid, right, that each kid needs to be nurtured a different way or has a different sort of personality, or should just be across the board?
I don't, because we only do what we know. They call themselves, you know, they're Christians. I was baptized Greek Orthodox. They called themselves Christian, but we didn't live like the principles of God's values of like reading the Bible and really trying to live the way God lives, or even know about God and His love and His redemption and why we need a Savior. And so you only do what you know. So do I blame them? No, because we just repeat what we're known and what our parents teach us. So they did the best that they can. There's people out there that have much worse. I'm not saying I had it easy, but they did the best they can.
I say the same thing. I always tell my sister that. I said they did the best they can what they had.
Right.
But then it's our job to break the cycle, to recognize that they, you know, maybe they did the best they could. And back then, most parents didn't show emotion, right? It was especially a man. I know your dad was a cop, right?
He was a cop. Mm-hmm.
So to show emotion, it's you know, you're macho. You have this persona, but
right.
You know, now as parents, I'm a parent. We overcompensate, right? We show so much love and affection to our kids because we didn't get that as a child. Right. But it takes a long time to heal that and to recognize that. And
right.
It's, yeah, like I said in your book, I mean, you really, to be that honest is amazing. There's one thing that I didn't fully understand. I mean, you were an athlete, you know, popular, but the eating disorder, like I couldn't figure out how that, like why that took place. Have you been able to identify why?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was going to my senior year in high school. My mom had remarried, moved away, and I was brokenhearted for my first love and I kind of was the girl that wore the scarlet letter. My mom was in relationships and dating multiple men, and my older brother had gotten into some trouble, and so he was expelled from our high school. And so I was this girl that had to carry the burdens of my family. So it was like I felt like I had to pay penance. So I had to try to be perfect because I was so embarrassed of my family. And so that need for trying to be perfect and the good girl really set in, and anorexia, whatever addiction it is, whatever eating disorders, it's a way of coping. So for me, that was my form of control. I couldn't control my mom moving. I couldn't control what my brother did. I couldn't control my first love, all of the people dying and the heartbreak that I had. So that was the one thing in my life as a teenager that I could control, and it was my form of protecting myself. And it's self-destructive, and even whether it's drugs, whether it's cutting, all these people have these certain things that they deal with as teenagers, but it's their way of making them feel safe. And so it fit a need at the time.
But do you remember what popped in your head for that first day where you said, did you look in the mirror and you saw something different than what we see? Do you remember that first day where you decided that I'm going to purge, or I'm going to
I do.
Stop eating?
I do. It was, I was working at a health club when I was a senior in high school. So I was always working, making my own money, and I was an athlete. So I was a beer drinker in high school, which back in the day was normal. Like, I grew up in the Midwest in the cornfields of Chicago, so we partied and drank beer even though it was legal. And we just ate Taco Bell and McDonald's, and I would have 2 practices a day. I was an athlete, so club volleyball, basketball, softball. So I could naturally kind of stay fit. But I remember back in the day we had to wear this uniform for volleyball, which was very, like, now I don't think they wear it anymore. But we were all looking at our bodies, and I remember we were all sitting there being compared. And that was kind of the trigger of, like, oh my gosh, I need to lose weight. And seeing all of these women at the gym obsessively exercise. So that's kind of when I put 2 and 2 together to exercise more, to eat less, to count my calories. And so and nobody sets out to say, hey, I'm going to destroy myself and come near death under 80 pounds and not be able to get out of bed, and for fear that I'm going to die of an eating disorder. It slowly escalates. And I believe there's a trigger that depression kind of sets in first. But before you know it, you think you're in control, but you're so out of control, you're so gone. I would look in the mirror. Also, body dysmorphia is a big deal for women, and nowadays as well, that I would look in the mirror and I would see a fat person, and I was under 80 pounds. So I was my son, who's 11, is 90 pounds, and he's tall and lean. So I did not see what people see.
I know, that's...
Yeah.
Wow. And how long now that lasted for how many years? You had an eating disorder all the way up till you got married, right?
So it was about 17 until I was about, I became a Christian when I was about 22, 23. So that was about 6 years on and off. I battled anorexia on and off. Then when I became a Christian, I was going to church, listening to sermons, and that kind of replaced all of the old behavior and the things that I dealt with. But then when I got married, bulimia kicked in. Oh. And so here I am, a Christian who loves God, going to church, reading my Bible, praying. I have a man who loves God, and we have this great marriage, so we think, and I'm battling bulimia, and I'm purging up to 25 times a day, questioning, like, am I really saved? Am I really a Christian? And so part of my story is not just, hey, this is this broken girl who needs Jesus, comes to Jesus, but after you're a Christian, what do you do when you're battling? Because it says that we are new creatures in Christ in God's word, but our souls aren't healed. Sometimes it takes decades to heal, those wounds from childhood. And so they resurfaced when I got married, and I don't know why, but I was convinced that I was literally going to die, going to die from a heart attack or not knowing. And I can't tell you the countless, it took about 2+ years on our knees every day crying out to God and asking him to heal me. And it wasn't until I conceived my son that I said, I am not going to hurt this baby.
Ethan, right? I have
Ethan.
a question about the miracle. But
Yes.
I just want to go back before so now, okay, so let's say you're 17, 18 now, let's skip a few years, what it is, and now you're on your way to LA, right? You want to be a star, and we all have this dream. And you're hanging out with celebrities, you meet Hugh Hefner. What was your motive back then? What were the intentions? Like, why did you want to be an actress?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I fell in love with theater in San Diego when I moved, not knowing anybody. So I could start my life over. I kind of left my old life. I left my past, which was a great new beginning. And but I was still an introvert. I was still shy. So when I took theater in college, I fell in love with being able to be somebody besides myself, so I could escape being Andrea. And that was the first time that I was like, I can actually run away from myself. So there was a sense of freedom in not having to think about me and my life. And I was doing local modeling and auditioning in San Diego and doing some jobs, and a commercial agent from LA invited me up to the Playboy Mansion. So my introduction to Hollywood was not like this normal, hey, I'm 18 auditioning, trying to get on a Disney series. No, I was in in Hollywood with all the Playboy playmates, Leonardo DiCaprio, George Clooney, those kinds of celebrities, and that was my introduction. And it was a little bit of a crazy crowd.
So now, did you consider yourself to be successful at that time?
No, I mean, I was this 18, 19-year-old girl that had a dream in her heart to be an actress, and I was in San Diego, and I never had even considered to be an actor other than it just kind of started to fall into place. And then when the dream became possible for me to move up to LA by myself, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to pursue my dreams. And knowing that I'm stubborn, my dad said, you're never going to be able to do that. You don't have a job. And I was like, watch me.
Watch me. And it's funny because, so let me ask you, and then let's say, do you think people could be successful and follow their dream and goals if their agenda is more self-serving and not to glorify God?
People do it every day. I mean, people do it every day. Didn't work for me. I think people can do it for years, but at the end of the day, I know that my desires and my dreams come from God. So I'm here, we're all here. We're kind of like on this earth to learn, to grow, to love, and to bring other people to our faith, hopefully, and to share our experience. For me, it didn't work. I was dating multiple men. I was, experimenting with drugs, had a near overdose with drugs. I was surrounded by women that were compromising their character and morality. And for me, I got to a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. It didn't sit well with me, and I was this empty individual that was trying to use different avenues to fill me up, and I was like, this is not working. So I was and I said, when I became a Christian, I said, God, you either have to put acting in my lap or I'm done. I'm done with this, because it's such an uncomfortable place to live where you're being rejected every day and somebody's telling me you're not good enough. So if I didn't have my faith, I would not be an actor to this day.
I mean, as a kid, I was an actor, let's say, and I remember I didn't like it because I always felt like a pawn. But I realized that I was an actor because of my own insecurities. I wanted to be the cool guy. I wanted people to recognize me. I wanted money. So I chased that, and I never succeeded until I realized that was wrong. Now that I'm doing this because I love it, I see the success that comes with it, because my goal is not about me. It's about glorifying God.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing is, do we want to be an actor just to look cool, to be cool, for our own accolades? Now, thankfully, we have Pure Flix, and we get to do films that glorify God, that have a message with inspiration and hope, and we get to do what we love. So we get to play, we get to act, and have fun, but it's not just for us. It's for a bigger message and a bigger purpose. So I think we get the best of both worlds.
So how did you make the transition to Pure Flix? Can you walk me down that a little bit?
Yeah, so David's been producing since the late 90s. He's been producing faith-based films. And obviously, if you're not a producer, then you're an actor just trying to get your next job. And we knew that we wanted to start a family, and he started Pure Flix with a few other partners in 2005. And they were just straight to DVDs. We wanted to build a library of faith-based films that could build our library and also get the investors' money back. So we started with lower budget films, and one of the first films I think was $87,000, and it made a couple million over the years, and Sony was distributing that. So we saw a need and a market for it, and then we started to just kind of build, and the budgets got bigger, and then we started releasing theatrical films. And then Pure Flix is, we released the digital platform. So just like Netflix, but Pure Flix, family faith-based version.
Christian Netflix.
And we're excited. We love it. It's growing. It's just growing faster, and we have some exciting news here in the next few months to share. Can't share it yet, but it's growing. And yeah, exactly.
Take off that question.
Yeah. So yeah, we did a sitcom called Malibu Dan the Family Man. That will be out January 5th. So we're excited because we can do comedies. There's cooking shows. There's children's TV. We have thousands of other titles, and so it's just a safe place to be able to not have to hit fast forward, and we're just really excited about it. Oftentimes in Hollywood, there's a lot of roles that we can't do because there's certain things that we don't want to compromise in. So maybe that's a little selfish, but we want to serve a niche that actors can do what they love and not have to compromise their faith, and being able to do content that's actually that your family can watch and that they're proud of.
Wake up to a new day dawning. A picture paints a million words in this town. Everyone take their
that I'm hip. You know, cool and with it.
What's bringing all this on?
The station is trying to appeal to a younger demographic, and there's this guy hanging around, and he's got me worried.
Yeah, that could be bad.
Good morning, Malibu. Welcome back to Wake Up Malibu. I'm Danny Marshall.
We're live in 3. Where is Dan?
I want you to tell me what you see.
Well, I don't really see anything.
Bingo!
So, Marty, Jess, you ever seen anything like it?
No, never.
I don't understand it. I make a pretty good living, yet why are we always so strapped for cash?
We'll just, cut back on things till we get back on our feet.
Seriously, how did you do it? I mean, is there some kind of magical secret to your success?
You know, I'd like to think that our show is a success.
Let's begin.
Wake up to a new day dawning. A picture paints a million words in this town. Everyone take their place. Who's leading who? The happening news today. Foggy skies turn blue today in Malibu.
You're a good man, Dan Marshall.
Remember, we want to wish you a good time in the sunshine.
What is it like to work with your husband all day? I mean, you're with him. Are you with him all day? I mean, that's got to be a lot. Or I come home to him.
He travels a lot. In
Oh,
fact, I
okay.
was a single mom for 6 weeks, so I need a superhero, okay, you know. But we love to work together. We love developing scripts and concepts. Like Mom's Night Out was the one I did back in 2014. We love to develop content. That's one of our favorite things to do, and the years of struggling with, pushing babies and staying up at all hours of the night and putting babies to sleep, we would talk about films, and that's something we love to do, and we get along better on set than we do at home.
Wow.
I always say that because we don't argue who has to take the trash out, but and we have each other's back. I think there's a safe place. Is it perfectly easy? No, but it's a gift that we get to work together and do what we love, and then create things that kind of throw them up against the wall and see what God does with them.
You're right. Can you share any of the upcoming projects with us?
Well, sure. So we also did a sitcom called Hitting the Brakes, which is the #1 comedy on Pure Flix right now. That was really fun. Morgan Fairchild plays my mom. Ray Wise plays my dad. We have a lot of great characters in there. David just filmed God's Not Dead, A Light in the Darkness, so that will be out in theaters in March 30th, right around Easter. So watch out for that. And Malibu Dan the Family Man will be out January 5th, and I am set to film something in January in Kentucky for the platform as well. So busy stuff, but
And you guys are
we
in
love
all the
it.
films mostly, right? A lot of the big projects?
We try to be.
Do people ever say anything? Like, you're in all your own movies. Is that part of the deal? Like, when you get investors, like, we have to star in it or we have to be in the film?
Well, the good thing is we have a good amount of control, but we also are very aware of marketing and what's best for our company. So believe it or not,
you'll cut
we are not
yourself.
selfish. We do know what's best for our company, and a lot of times we have to say, okay, let's give it to the bigger star. It's like, the humility. God's always watching our pride, so it's a good thing.
Why do you think it's important to use media or technology as a form of communication or to spread the word of God? Why is that important?
Well, I mean, look at me. Look at me on the other end of a radio station, how God reached me through radio, and now social media nowadays, that's why I feel a responsibility to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. Everybody just wants to share the good, and that's for social media and for our stories, but also you never know who's on the other end, and believe it or not, 90% of Hollywood is open to faith. I mean, people are hungry for truth. I mean, you look at the news every single day. We're surrounded right now by fires. I mean, we had the fear of having to evacuate our house just last week. So there's smoke all around us, the tragedies with the fires, with the shootings. I have girlfriends that were at the shooting in Las Vegas just a couple months ago with the concert. So people are dying, and people want to know, what's going to happen? Like, when I'm on my deathbed, where am I going? And so we don't know who we're going to reach, and if their time is tomorrow and God's saying, you know what, you're here and you need to speak, we don't know. We don't know why we're at a certain place at a certain time, but our hope is that we can help those people.
And I think it's changed a lot. I mean, back in the day, like, I'm so old, but it was a little.
You're
bit,
so old?
I know, like, as if I'm back in the day, when I was a kid. But I remember a lot of people would talk about faith. It was a little
Yeah.
bit more open, and then it sort of changed a little bit. I mean, some celebrities now, if they identify with the faith, especially Christianity, it's like Stephen Baldwin is a friend, and we had a great conversation about it. If you mention faith, then he does. But if you mention faith, like you're blacklisted.
Right.
But so, I mean, have you experienced that, or why do you think people in Hollywood, especially, don't just take a stand and say, yeah, I'm a Christian, and I'm willing to sacrifice my job?
There's the bold ones like we are, and then there's the other ones that are kind of undercover. And I think for us, I'm black or white. That's my personality. And I also think it's something that God puts on your heart. For us, it's a conviction, and I'm not ashamed of it, because I'm where I'm at today, not by my own strength, not by my own doing, and because I met the right person and I networked here. It's like, no, God orchestrates all that. So if for me to not give God the glory, I'd be an idiot. But that's just I don't judge anybody else. And other people, they don't feel like they need to share their faith, and that's okay too, because we don't know how they're sharing their faith on the set, and God puts us all in those places for a reason that sometimes we don't know. The coolest things are the people that work on our sets that we hire that are not Christians and become a Christian.
I love that.
Like Brian Bosworth, amazing story. I don't know if you've got the chance to. He used to be in the NFL football player.
Okay.
Seattle Seahawks, and he did our films Revelation Road.
He's an investor too in Pure Flix, or is
He's
that
an
just a
actor.
pitcher that's? Okay.
He was an actor in some
Okay.
of our films. He's been in a few of our films, and he was an NFL football player who had a very hard relationship with his father, and had a very hard time just in life, and a lot of anger towards God, and he came to become a Christian through our films. And we didn't minister to him on set. So that's the cool stuff, is because sometimes you don't have to preach. It's just being on set and like, wait a minute, you're acting differently, or what's this about? And so that's cool. That's
I agree.
rewarding.
So sort of God put them, within your path, so you would be able to sort of, convert them or transform them. And why do you think? Because there's so many people out there that have, like me and you, have similar, dreams and desires. Why did God pick you? Like, why is this happening for you, and not someone else?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. Why did God pick me? I don't know. I think because He knows that I persevere, that I won't give up, that I am pretty bold. I love people. I love people that struggle, and if God can take me, this broken little girl from the Midwest, and put me somewhere, and know that it's only by His grace, and He can do it to anybody. I don't think I'm any different than anybody, to be honest. I think we're all equal. We're all the same. I just happen to be a person that loves God and loves to perform.
Well, keep continuing to do what you're doing. I'll be a fan of
you.
Pure Flix in your films. God bless you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you
I
so much.
appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in. Always remember, you have the ability to inspire and evangelize through your words and actions. Thanks for walking with us. See you next time.